I'm going to say welcome to Homo Sapiens. Now, look, there's a mystery co-host today. Can you see? I've got an empty screen because, as you know, we're now visual, but can you hear anyone for those just listening? No. Who could it be? It's James Greenwood.
Oh, hey.
Hey, James Greenwood.
I'm good.
Welcome to Homo Sapiens.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me. What an honor.
Welcome to the co-hosting gig of your life.
It's great to be here.
Listeners will remember that James came on the podcast a while ago. And then what's quite funny is we stayed in touch because you live locally, and then we had kids at the same time. So we have become really good friends, which has been lovely. We do call each other the Lambrini sisters. More on that anon.
The hangovers are real.
Yeah, but when we're not being dragged out of each other's homes by the one who's driving, our other halves who are driving, let's tell listeners a bit about, all your other many skills and beautiful talents.
Oh my
So you're a vet by trade.
Yeah, so I'd sort of describe myself first and foremost as a vet, because that's still my passion. That's still, sort of, if somebody asks what you do, I still would say I'm a vet. That's like my kind of go-to.
I'm also going to say that a lot of people refer to you as the hot vet.
Oh, stop it. Don't make me blush. Literally, we're 3 minutes in and I'm always getting back red.
Or as my husband's mum said to you, are you the TV vet?
So basically that leads into the other thing. So then I started, ages ago, I mean, this is years ago now, I was in a bit of an odd place with all sorts of things and decided to start ceramics. So I did a ceramics course. And it massively helped me. Beautiful mug you've got there, Chris, right on.
Winston Pottery, shout out.
Fabulous.
Not a queer-owned business, but I reckon quite queer-friendly. It's always been very nice to me.
And so I did. I started doing like an evening course thing. Absolutely loved it. Completely hooked. And then my other half husband, Mark, said you should apply for this thing that he just seen on Facebook, which was the first ever series of the Great Pottery Throwdown. Yeah.
Pottery Throwdown, sorry.
The Pottery Throwdown. So I did that, and that then led into more TV. So now I sort of mingle, I suppose, a bit of TV work with writing work, with a bit of the dreaded social media that I try and keep up with, but it seems to move at a rate of knots. And this sort of stuff in television and podding and just, generally kind of throwing myself out there to who anybody will listen or look at me, which is fun, really.
Hush. You're very accomplished. You're brilliant on Morning Live, and you have written kids' books as well, let's not forget.
Yeah, so I just got my kids' book out at the moment, How to Talk to Your Pet and Other Animals. So we're sort of on the PR train for that at the moment, which is really fun. We're going into lots of schools, sort of talking about, it's not about sort of like what pet you might want or anything like that. It's more kind of trying to help children and younger readers kind of understand more about what their pets might be thinking and kind of how to then react back and things like that. So I love it. It was a really collaborative thing. So to write a kid's book, obviously it was a massive dream in the first place. But what I loved about it then, of course, I've done all the words to it, but then we've got an amazing illustrator, Jack Viant. He's kind of brought the book to life. So, I do love it. You go into schools and you sort of get all these kids shouting out about their pets and all these things. So, yeah, it's fun.
Do you find it? So we did a thing with Amazon for putting LGBT books in schools, and we had to do an assembly. And I don't think I've told the story, but they did. I was like, "Can we do a Q&A?" Like, because Q&As, when you do a thing in front of a crowd, if you have a Q&A, like you don't really have to think about what to say because someone just asks you a question. So that's what we were told we were doing. And then we went into the school assembly with like hundreds of kids. And they were like, right, so Chris, can you stand up and tell me your coming out story? And I was like, what? So I had to stand up, introduce myself and say how I came out. It was like seriously traumatic. It was definitely a straight person's idea. And anyway, how do you find talking to like big groups of kids? Because if they're not interested, they'll just switch off. I find it quite interesting.
Massively. And you can sort of see, you can definitely see a few kids sort of like, start, I don't know, picking at a scab or picking a nose or something. You're like, yeah, I've lost you down the corner. Let's go and talk about how much do you love your pony at home or things like that. I don't know. There's something sort of hugely disarming about a young audience, isn't there? Because you just never know what's going to come out of their mouths or what they're going to ask you. And so I suppose we do. There is that sort of thing where you do revert back, don't you, to putting yourself in that position. And one of the slides that I've got on my talk is me and my husband and our little boy Oliver. And I remember the first time putting it up there, and I've done it twice where I haven't necessarily introduced Mark, and the other one I said, "This is my husband, Mark." I don't know why I didn't introduce him in the second one, but I was just sort of gauging it, and you can still see a few little titters, coming out of the faces, just a couple occasionally, and it surprises you because sometimes that can be more in like an inner city. I've done sort of really rural sort of schools and also real sort of inner city schools. And often the rural ones are actually the ones that are just like, nah, just like want to talk about animals.
It's so interesting though, isn't it? Because you know, those little laughs you're talking about there, and like, I think we're conditioned as well to be like, no matter how okay you are with your own sexuality, I think we also know that we all live in a bubble in the sense that, like, if we're lucky enough that people have accepted us, we rub up against people who know our story. So then when you stand up in front of big crowds, I do feel like I'm reverting to someone who's like, it's all a secret, when I know that it's not. But what's amazing when you were telling me that is, like, because there's 200 kids in that room or whatever, the odds are one of those kids is going to be gay and hear you say that, and that is transformative. They will be like, oh, he was okay with it, And I think that is super cool.
Just one picture on a slide of pictures, but if that's just enough just to signal out there that that's my life, and and hearing about animals, which the rest of the whole school think is cool, then that's that's good. And so I do. It's been a really sort of interesting and fun little journey.
In honor of your arrival today, actually, I put out on socials for listeners to send us your dog. So we'll do a sort of carousel of your dogs, listeners, because you sent them in. So thank you.
I saw that. Yeah, International Dog. Right on cue.
Wow.
International Dog Day, wasn't it?
It was.
So that's Dolly. I should probably introduce. That's our dog, Dolly. Oh my goodness, somebody's here.
I was going to say, welcome, Dolly. The main event. What's happening? Someone at the door. Go get it. Honestly, he's back. Who was that?
So we're in the middle of just the most stressful time at the moment. We had a massive leak underneath our kitchen floor. So with the whole house at the moment, the only functional room I have is the upstairs bathroom. Other than that, everything is just a building site. So that was a carpenter who we've been waiting to hear from for months and months and months, who just suddenly turned up right in the middle of the podcast, which is so classic. So he's just given us a quote for upstairs, and now I'm back in the room.
You've had a real shocker. Just for clarity, the entire ground floor of your house, every single floor has been pulled up, right?
Everything has been full, but everything has been pulled up. We basically had a leak and it started pooling water in the kitchen. And when you sort of think, I don't think I can ignore this any longer. So we ended up having a specialist come around, and he said, you need to take all the plaster off your walls, you need to lift up all of the flooring. And it's not a huge house, but it's just the practicality of that with a 2.5-year-old toddler at home is just been, and then of course that's then meant that we've had to have a whole new plumbing system throughout as well. So all of upstairs carpet's been ripped out, and honestly, it's fine, but fine is never fine, is it? It's just a lot.
Oh, it's so intense because you can't do anything normally. Like, you have to work around everything, and also you have a little boy. They don't understand, so he's running around
the lounge. Yeah, like we've just crammed everything into the lounge. Our entire house is in one room. So now when he comes home from nursery, he's like sort of trying to scrat his way through all of our furniture to find just one little toy at the back of the cupboard. You sort of just think we are terrible parents. But, it's all going to be good in the end. We're going to get there.
You're great. You two are great parents. You two are the benchmark for William and I. You're so chilled and lovely. And how do you two... You and can we call him Titty, Mark?
You can call him Titty. Of course you can.
So if there's any way for William and I to have an enormous argument, it is to, like, we have a rule to not move a piece of furniture together anymore because it's just come to blows too many times. But when the house is a mess in that way, like something's like, that's when we fall out.
Yeah, 100%. Ours would be, and this sounds, I know how this sounds. Ours would be social media.
Oh,
So
go on.
if I get, like, obviously a part of my, and I do call it a job, a part of my job now is to occasionally do these social media gigs and blah, 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 you know, pet food or what have you. And they'll often send through the deliverables and they'll want, you know, a photograph of you with the dog and the food or blah, blah, blah. And to try and actually take a photograph of yourself with a dog looking at the camera and not just running off down the garden, as you can see, is sometimes quite hard. So occasionally I'll sort of say to Mark, you know, or Titty, I'm like, do you mind just taking the photo? And he is the classic, like, gets the phone out, one tap, job done.
Oh,
And then
yeah.
I look at it and I'm like, I mean, this is fine, but you have actually chopped like the top of my head off. So we're going to have to do that again. And he's just like, I just haven't got the time for this. I don't want to do it. So we've just learned to separate. That's one thing that we do not collaborate on. Like, if I need to get some photographs, I get a friend in, normally somebody in their 20s, so they understand, because I haven't got a clue. I'm like, can you come and do some Instagramming with me?
Yes.
So yeah, that's our guaranteed argument, is if we ever have to do anything revolving around.
Yeah. Do you know what? It's so funny. You know, when you're on holiday and you ask someone to take a photo, and it's normally like it's when there's a group of you, or for whatever reason, but like you hand it to that person and the person takes one snap and you're like, give me that back.
Go on.
Let's start again, my friend. Okay. There are 8 people in this photo. There are 8 people who need to sign this off. 7 of them are gay. Okay, so we're going to need at least 14 taps. I've already got the function on that gives me, you know, the circle and the dots. That gives you
live
frames. Yeah,
I love that.
That's it. But it's not going to work. So I now just pre-chat it with like, listen, I need to take a bunch of photos. And yeah, that seems to work better, because otherwise everyone's like, oh, I don't like that one. I don't like that one. You know what I mean?
So that's good. You see, so you communicate. Interesting.
Oh,
that's maybe our downfall, that I don't actually communicate any of that. I'm just like, just take a photo, because, oh God, yeah.
Well, it's also deemed
direct it more.
Well, I can't help myself and I annoy people as a result. But like, it's sort of deemed frivolous, isn't it? Like, doing social media stuff is, and it being work, which it is, if you in your job, like, is deemed frivolous. And so, and also you feel a bit ashamed because it's deemed sort of narcissistic. Do you know what I mean? So then you're like, oh, do you mind? And like all that jazz. But I would never. So William and I, we were asked to do this TV show once, that was like, I'm really pleased it didn't happen. I didn't know enough about it when I my friends were making a pilot for a show about like queer people. I had to film William a couple of times and he hated it. I was like, this is never going to work. Like, he hates that stuff. Like, and I think I really respect him for that. Like, and I think it's very grounding, and I totally get it. And if someone's not into it, you're never going to make them into it.
Yeah. I mean, Mark, they are exactly the same. I mean, basically, Mark,
they're quite similar.
He's just, and I do really appreciate that. And I think it does work it works in both our favors, because he's like a gardener. He just wants to dig holes and like have his hand in soil and talk about like plants and growing things, and very earthy, and you know, and that sort of online world, or the sort of you know, like if we get invitations to parties and stuff, like, you know, the sort of celebrity gigs and stuff, he's like, oh no, you go, and like, you know, so it just doesn't register as something that he's interested in. But in a weird way, that actually works really well, because then my home life, you know, is very much home, and then I sort of go off and do these little things here and there and stuff. And I love the fact that I can sort of slightly do both, to be honest, because then when I do come home, it's like I shut the door and that world is not the world I'm in anymore.
I think that it's sort of grounding to be able to not have someone who's interested in that.
I say that as though, that I've got it all worked out. The reason I say that is because actually I can get swept up.
Yeah.
I'm sort of at that stage of still getting quite swept up with stuff, and I can get a bit like, oh, I need to get there, I'll do that, So that's what I mean. I suppose it's the balance does me good, that he keeps me on a level which is like, just remember that isn't real, which I love the fact that he's not in that world and can just give it a completely different perspective, which is actually very healthy, because when I'm then in my own head catastrophizing or thinking about things, he's just like, well, let's go on, grow some tomatoes.
Is he someone just with fully intact mental health?
So I definitely am not that, but
me neither. That's why I'm like, oh my god, what are they called? Unicorns. Does he like himself? Is that the problem?
I just don't know. He genuinely.
What's the matter with him?
I know, and he barely drinks. Maybe that's it. No, he genuinely doesn't have, like, he doesn't struggle with. I mean, here's me telling all of this about him, but I'm sure you won't mind me sharing it. He doesn't struggle with things like anxiety or depression, or he's very. He actually, he went and did a course called Landmark, I think it's called.
Oh yeah.
Where you sort of go and learn all about yourself, and that helped him actually come out as well. It was a real pivotal moment in his life, and I think that did sort of give him this. It's all about sort of the universe, and it's quite easy to. I'm not that. I'm scientific, but being together, like, he does sort of follow that sort of thing of, what you think about, you bring about, and if you put the intention out there, stuff will come back. And he really firmly believes in it. And actually, whatever it is, 17 years later, I'm starting to think, well, actually, maybe you are right. Maybe there is.
Do you know, James? I've been married 10 years as of today.
Well, today?
Yesterday.
Oh, guys, congratulations.
Thanks.
We should be celebrating. We should be coming up and having, I don't know, Lamborghini.
Mark, get in the car.
Mark,
bring the Lamborghini.
Drive.
Grab two, babes. You might as well.
Congratulations. 10 years, a decade on. How does it feel?
Thanks. You know what? Like, how long have you two been together?
Oh God, 2000, and we don't really know, to be honest. I think 2008 we first met. 2008. We got married in 2019.
So a long time. Yeah, I mean, I think it's really interesting. I think what's really interesting is that you evolve together. And the person you marry, you basically have to be, at the moment you get married, you have to be down for marrying someone, and they could completely change and be okay with that. Like to want them to stay the same as they are standing at that altar, or however you do it. We did not do it at an altar. That's a fool's errand. And I think we have both changed tons, evolved tons. And I think also just like communication, I don't think when you really, really are madly in love and you fancy each other and you don't have any responsibilities, it's really pretty simple to not communicate and still have a nice time. And then you end up, loads of shit hits the fan. Like for 3 years, my poor dad was dying, and that was like a whole thing, which was like, as is so often the case, like we didn't live that near each other. I lived in Hackney, they lived in Surrey, but I was going back and forth to Surrey all the time, trying to sort out this evolving process, and while trying to hold down a job, and William helping with that. And you go through some big stuff, is what I'm trying to say. And you basically, I just think you have to communicate, and we communicate really well now. We do, like, I think, I can't remember if I've said this before, but like most things I have, like we do a weekly check-in where we talk once a week.
Oh, wow, that's a good idea.
And we've had couples therapy in order to help with that. And it was them who suggested that. And like, it's actually really nice, because the first ones are hard because you're bringing stuff up, but sometimes it's just like, we you say there's nothing to talk about this week, but I just want to say it's very nice. And also, we've had kids together, and that is just like, it's so hard. Like, it's also wonderful, etc. But it's really hard, and it pulls on if there's weaknesses there, they will be found.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So
Yeah. Well, no, I think, yeah, I think it is that, isn't it? Like you do, I think I would love to go for therapy. I think it's so great to do that. And I think we also had a particularly challenging year last year with Mark's. So Mark's 46, and he developed a few symptoms and what have you. And he was diagnosed with prostate cancer, which at 46 is sort of, early on. And I think the sort of the stress and worry, A, around cancer, but then B, when you're in those early stages and you're suddenly facing the potential mortality of your loved one and your partner and the person you just rely on so heavily, it's a really intense thing to go through. And Oliver, our son, was only 1 and a bit at the time, so we had these 2 big life changes very quickly. And I think communication was a key part of that. And when you're really in the shit, of course you do communicate quite well, because you've got the common focus to think, we've got to get through this hospital appointment, or blah blah blah. But what you don't realize around that, and I think it's the same with maybe some of the stresses and the unseen pressures around having children, maybe it's like, it's all the peripheral stuff that then can build up, and I think we sort of thought that with him being sick, that everything else would just be put on hold. But of course it doesn't. The life carries on, and you still have to pay the mortgage. You still have to sort of work out how you're going to get Oliver around to nursery, blah, 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 all these different things. And I think, it was really tough. And I think when you hear people going through a tough time like that, or an illness, I can now see and understand how communication is so important in those times, because everybody's stressed, everybody's upset. And of course, those little niggly things are still there, and the worry and the stress of things. So we did have, like, it sounds awful to say, but we did have some really tough times in those moments where your relationship is really put to the test, because of course, absolutely, you want to be there for them 110% in every situation. But when you've got all of life's pressures also adding up on that, it's a lot to deal with. And I think that's where the longevity of relationship and understanding each other really kind of comes in. And we ended up having to have those, like you said, those check-ins, and just be like, why are we arguing, and why are we having these sort of, these difficult times, when we both just need to find that compassion in each other to recognize that this is just a really shit time, and we both just need to sort of come off the gas a bit and just have a bit more patience and compassion. And it's, but that's relationships, isn't it? I think that's the thing. It's and also he won't mind me sharing that he's quite, if anybody out there listening that is, sort of 40 plus and with a prostate, it's something just to consider. We sort of gloss over it and think of it as an older person's condition, but the diagnoses and treatments are getting younger and younger, and it's definitely something to be aware of. So that's a little side note.
No, it's a big note, because my dad died of prostate cancer, actually. So I've constantly got someone up there with their finger, because they're like, oh, yeah, that's probably what's going to knock you off. But no, so they're not, I think they're not even doing, needs checking, Chris, but like, I think they're not so much doing that test anymore, where they stick their finger up your bum. But I'll have to get my kids. But no, you should have a PSA test. I have had one, and it was fine. But it is very common. And I will put in the show notes a couple of resources about it, because I don't have it. I don't have it to hand, and it's particularly relevant for gay men, and also trans women as well. There are things around that need to be looked at. So let's put a bit of info on that in the show notes. But it's also what I think is not described, or once you've been through something, um, like someone being really ill, what I think you you feel like you've been shielded from for your whole life is like how unclear everything is the entire time. And that's not to criticize any doctors, by the way. It's like the whole thing is a like it's very hard to know whether this is like disastrous or going to be okay, and it very slowly becomes clear, but they can't tell you at the beginning, you know what I mean, because they'll treat for the worst version to in order to be safe, but then you're like, is it the worst version? And I even remember when my dad was literally 2 days from dying, and he had prostate cancer that spread to the rest of his body. And then he got pneumonia, which is often what ends up happening because you're not moving in your bed, so your lungs get an infection. Asking this woman, like this nurse, sorry, I was like, is he going to die? And she was like, she just kind of didn't want to tell me. And so it becomes a full-time job, just getting from the very first conversation about it through to however it, resolves itself. It's important to say Mark is okay now.
Yes, yeah, no, and you're right. It was definitely that sort of process of, in the early days, just trying to get answers, and all of the resources that we could find were based on, older people with the disease, and we couldn't find anything necessarily that relevant to a 46-year-old. And all I wanted to know, was what does all this mean? 10-year survival is it sounds awful to say, but it's quite a different goalpost if you're 80 with the disease versus if you're 46.
I remember you saying that, yeah.
And it was the consultant that then, and of course, with my medical brain, I'm then looking for all the studies and all of the, I just want clear facts. I want the answers. I don't necessarily. I got to a point where I was getting quite, not impatient, but I didn't want the soft language anymore. I just wanted facts. I wanted somebody to tell me what was going on and what to expect as the person, going through it on the side. And then I can just remember getting to the point of actually going for surgery. So he did go for surgery, and I was a bit of a mess. Obviously, my emotional roller coaster that I am. Mark, I mean, he almost skipped into that operating theatre. I think because there was a plan and because he could just hand that over. I think he just wanted to get it done. It was like a real kind of like moment of thinking, okay, so let's get this done, and we just need to do it. And like it was really inspiring watching how he just handled the whole thing, and he was just phenomenal throughout. And now he's back at work, living life, and you're so easy to take your health for granted, isn't it? It's so easy when you just crave normality, whatever that is. But you just and it was it was quite a year last year. So
and it was a fucking year. Thank God your house didn't flood.
I think that's the three. That's the three things. Three big things in 2 years. Great.
But a lot of people say that, don't they? That like when you're ill, once you're in the system, you relax a bit, like because people are doing checks and things, and I don't know. There's experts at work, and I think a lot of people say that actually once you leave, it can be another surprise bump because you're out of the system. And a little lighter in mood. What's the atmosphere between doctors and vets?
Well, I mean, they think it's a competition. We sort of just know it's not really. No, I'm joking. I have huge respect. I mean, of course, there's bants, isn't there? But I think COVID was a really, again, big topic. Here we go. Let's not dwell on COVID by any means. But there was this sort of call to arms at the time. And there's always been this thing that vets are allowed to treat humans, but humans aren't allowed to treat animals. And it's definitely true that doctors aren't allowed to treat pets because that is an act of veterinary surgery. But anyway, COVID came around. I think lots of us were like, "This could be it." The hospitals are going to need us. Here we go. And then the memo came through from the Royal College of Veterinary Surgeons saying, "Yeah, they don't need us in hospitals, but keep fighting the fight for the animals." And it was I think then, and that sort of I will say that I think doctors are just amazing. I think they are phenomenal to choose to go into that role and the stress.
When they could have done veterinary,
They could have
they
just
chose the easy route.
yeah, no, they're amazing. So
Oh, I love it. I want to see you with a doctor now. One of the things, James, that listeners have written in about is queer parenting. So I wonder if we should do a chat about that next time. What do you think?
yeah, absolutely. I think, queer parenting and that sort of journey and that path to parenthood. I think what's really interesting is since becoming parents, I've also had so many questions come in, and like it's quite hard to find a huge amount of lived experience with it. It's definitely something that I think people are interested in, and I suppose just don't self-exclude from it. Like, absolutely, let's open that conversation up and let's because it is such a thing, and
Yes.
yeah, basically that's a long way of me saying yes. Let's talk about it.
But you and Mark has been so amazing for me and William, having other queer parents, because, funnily enough, it's quite straight parenting. So, and you're so used to having your gang, and then it's like, and it's not about not wanting to hang out with straight people, blah blah blah. There's just lovely, beautiful idiosyncrasies, isn't there?
Yeah.
And they're gone, and it's been really lovely for us. And I think the more queer people who become parents who want to, who don't feel that they're being held back by a barrier, I'd love to help in that way. And people wrote in good questions, so we should do that and maybe see if we can get some of your questions that you've been sent as well, so
Absolutely.
we can cover it all off.
Yeah,
Okay, fine, we'll do it, people. And I won't ask any more questions about Mark's prostate.
I will also just say that Mark is happy that he does. I feel like I've talked about somebody else's health in quite detail there, but he does consent to all of that. We've done sort of shows and we've done talks about it, so I just want to make that.
Who cares? No, I'm joking.
Exactly. Do it for the ratings. Come on.
No, I actually just think it's also like, it is a thing that a couple go through, and that's sort of how it started. That is how the conversation started.
Yeah.
It wasn't in any way. And I think, but then I'm like, I want everyone to be aware, because it is this thing. And particularly, we talk a lot about, queerness and doctors and asking for things is really hard, and the respect is dwindling. And so it's just really nice to hear someone tell a story about something like prostate. It's not like, I didn't even know what it did. You know what I mean? It is early capture, and let's talk about it. I think it's been really lovely that it came up today. Everyone who has questions about queer parenting, please can you send them in? Hello at Homo Sapiens Podcast, at Homo Sapiens on Instagram. Should we end the episode, James, with our queer business shout out?
Yeah, let's.
Woo! Homo Sapiens notice board. I sprung this on you earlier, so you might not have one, but I've got one.
Go on.
Margate Queer Library. It does what it says on the tin. I found it online yesterday. Margate Queer Library. Let me look it up. I'll give you just so you have the full address, listeners, because otherwise, how on earth would you find it? It's all one word, Margate Queer Library. It's a DIY queer library and archive in Margate, basement of 7 Thanet Road, CT9 1UA, open Thursday to Saturday, 11 till 4 p.m. So, look them up on Instagram or, whatever social media you use, and go support them. Go and have a look. Very nice. Any queer businesses around you that you enjoy?
Yeah, so I'd like to give a massive shout out to an author. Actually, you're talking about libraries. I'm going to shout out to an author, Seth Insua, who wrote an incredible novel called Human Animal, which is very sort of on brand for myself, because it's sort of set on a farm, and it's sort of all of that narrative around sort of veganism versus, whether you choose to eat meat. And then there's also this kind of really interesting love story that's intertwined with it, and gender identity, and the whole kind of mix up of kind of that world colliding with agricultural world and rural life. And I will say now, it's a phenomenal read. And he's just actually, I'm pretty sure, just been nominated for a prize as well. It's just getting rave reviews. So I want to give Seth a big shout out.
And what was his surname?
Insua, Insua.
Wicked. I'm looking it up.
It's so good. Honestly, I was obsessed with it. I couldn't put it down.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
James, has been lovely.
Been gorge, always is. I could just chat for hours. I mean, I am free all day if you want. I've got nothing else to do.
Why don't I come round? I can
just do that.
lay some floor. That has been, that was really lovely. Listeners, we want to hear from you. It's hello@homosapienspodcast.com. It's at Homo Sapiens on Instagram. Stay in touch. Stay safe. Check your prostate.
There you go. Amen.
Bye for now.
Bye.
Bye.